This is the Dreamers Podcast, where dreamers share their stories to inspire you. Now, join host Joe Pardo as he interviews a dreamer who's living their dreams.
Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pardo, and today I am interviewing Beatrice Feeney, who is living her dream through attention deficit Disney disorder, or so she would have you believe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me. My own made-up terminology. I hope it's appropriate. It seems that my talents are all Disney-related in some way, form, or fashion.
Well, you know, on the show, we do love our Disney people, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, thanks.
So let's get started by giving some background about yourself.
Well, in 2003, I guess we'll go back that far, I was someone who weighed 200 pounds, was unhappy with myself, and basically came to the conclusion that the only person who could change me was me. So I needed to do whatever it took to get to whatever I wanted to be. And that's when I started to search out how I was going to do that. I got down to the weight range that I wanted to be. And then I decided that after all that hard work, I wanted a trophy. So I did a figure competition and came in third place. And after I got my trophy, I retired that night. It was a lot of hard work and it was wonderful. And it taught me a lot of great life lessons about discipline and fitness and exercise and how to live a healthier life. And that took me to a lot of other places, but that's where it all started. Then in 2006, I actually went through a period of time where my discipline and all the things I had learned a couple years earlier helped me out a lot, because I actually lost a job of 12 and a half years because I was laid off. The company deleted my position, and I actually got separated from a 10-year marriage and had to move out of a house of 8.5 years. And all of that job, house, and marriage happened within 3 months. So many people were wondering how I could remain so positive, and basically the only answer I had was it was just because I knew that there was something better out there that was going to happen. All of that was not going to happen to somebody without something good coming down the road. And I just couldn't wait for whatever good was going to start. So a few years later, I actually, since that time, I got married to the man of my dreams. I live in the place of my dreams, and I have the job of my dreams. So all of that has totally come back around. And one day I was at work, I got an email from a former coworker that I worked with at the TV station that I had lost my job at a few years earlier. The email said, "Your job is open." And I just replied to her, LOL. And she said, "No, seriously, your job in the Orlando market at a TV station is open, and I can't think of anyone who would rather live closer to Disney than you." So my husband and I was remarried at that time. We had just gotten married, so it was, brand new marriage. We hadn't even been married a year. We talked about it, and he said, "Well, go for it. You love Disney. You'd love to be down there. You miss working in TV, so try it. It won't hurt to try." So I applied. They gave me a couple of interviews on the phone. I was a little disappointed that they didn't even fly me down for an interview, because I really wanted to come to Orlando. But they gave me the job, and 2 weeks later, believe it or not, I was here without even thinking I was going to be living in Orlando. But my friend said, "I have a guest room in my 2-bedroom apartment, so you can stay in my guest room until you find a place to live." So my husband was back at home packing up everything and trying to prepare to move. And I was just staying in her guest room and working a new job, and just basically came down here on an email. It was like, "Your job's open." And that's how my life changed. But I've always been the type of person to just find something and go for it, no matter what direction it is, no matter what it is. It's how I got into the Run Disney, all the races and all the medals and all the things that I'm doing now. I run with my WDW radio running team. We raise money for our Dream Team project through Make-A-Wish. So we help wish children help make their wish come true by coming down to Disney. I've recently married a couple at Disney World. I mean, just every which way you can turn, it just kind of comes into my plate, and I just figure out how to do it and go through the proper steps to make it happen.
Well, before we move on, could you explain how you were able to marry a couple in Disney World?
Believe it or not, Florida is one of 3 states in the country that allow a notary public to marry a couple. And so my friends wanted a really small wedding. It was just the 2 of them and their daughter. And my husband was actually the second witness because we needed 2 witnesses. And so they just had a really tiny wedding with us. They had booked the fireworks cruise at the Contemporary. So, you go out on the boat, and they even, because you have a driver, they allow the champagne and the cake on the boat with you, because since you have a driver, you're not driving yourself. You could, we just had a small little ceremony. And it actually ended up with thunder and lightning and some rain. So we did have a backup plan of where we went with that. But, because it was so small, it wasn't like it attracted a scene. And it's not something that I do all the time. I don't advertise that sort of thing. But, but it's just one of those things that people say, can you do this? And I'm like, well, actually, yeah. I'll figure out the proper steps to take. I've never done it before, but we'll figure this out. And, it's little things like that I'm kind of proud of, that, you just make those steps forward to learn new things and to always try something fun and exciting.
Yeah, you got to try. That's usually the first step towards completing it. It's just trying. I mean, you can think about things all the time, but that doesn't get you anywhere.
That's one thing people say all the time, like, how did you know how to do it? I'm like, well, you just have to research it. I mean, if you don't try it, you'll never actually do anything. You could succeed, but not if you don't try. You could fail, but, I'd rather try something and then have to try it again later than just never try to begin with.
So I'm actually not surprised that Florida is one of the few states that lets almost anybody marry people.
Yeah, really.
It's a pretty wacky state.
I was amazed that Vegas wasn't on there, but
Really? Yeah. Well, that would hurt their industry.
I guess so, but that's not something I generally do. But it just happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm just really excited for them. And it was another opportunity to learn something new and just go for it,
Definitely. So what would you say inspires you?
I just always want to be better than the person I was yesterday somehow. And I don't know what I may do tomorrow, but I hope that I learn something new every day. The way I look at things is every single day is like a blank picture. And then you wake up in the morning and you create your masterpiece. So whatever it is that you might be doing on that one particular day, just try to do it well, or do something, learn something that you didn't know yesterday. And that's what inspires me all the time.
Oh, that's really nice. How did your dream of getting in better shape come about?
I just didn't like how I was at the time. And the only way to change that, rather than just sit there and complain about it, wasn't fixing anything. So basically, I needed to learn how to eat better. I needed to learn how to properly exercise better and to do things along those lines. Even after the competition that I did, I continued to work out in the gym, and I still do that now. But the running actually started from marathon weekend of 2012. I was down there, and the team that I run for now, we actually had a Make-A-Wish family that was down there. And some of the people on our team got the opportunity to meet the family. And they were so incredibly touched at the lives that they lived. The child that was going through so much, the family that was going through such incredible things every single day with hospitals and treatments, and just the fact that they had a few days that they could just put all that behind them and just enjoy everything magical. It touched them so deeply that on marathon weekend of 2012, I did probably the craziest thing I think I've ever done, and signed up for a Princess Half Marathon when I was not a runner. I don't think I had run a complete mile at that point. So I had 6 weeks to train. And I started training immediately and building up and realizing what sort of a challenge I had taken on. And it was the inspiration of seeing, imagining the faces of the Make-A-Wish children and, how they can't run. So I needed to be strong and do this for them. And in my head, I'm thinking all these things. I literally was crying as I was running sometimes because I was just thinking about the reason that I signed up to do it. And from that point on, I've done 2 marathons, 2 half marathons. I did the Dopey Challenge this year.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. That was another huge one for me. And, most people stop at the 48.6, but, I'm just not the average crazy person. So I met with some of my friends on Monday morning and we rounded out that last 1.4 to make it an even 50. So we actually created our own sort of ultra marathon. So we did the 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon, and then rounded it out with the 1.4 to make it 50 miles in 5 days. So that's how I got into Run Disney. And by being a runner and inspiring some of my coworkers and things, we actually did a 5K. We coordinated it because I work in a mall office. And our mall management office got with a local charity, Families in Transition. And so we developed a 5K that we actually put it together and, got sponsors and got runners. And we had a really great turnout February the 1st. And we did our first 5K, Get Fit for Fit. And so now I've not only been a runner, but been on the coordinating side of it as well. So it's been a heck of a fun time trying to figure all this stuff out.
So something that I usually ask the people that are into Disney that are on my show is what got you into Disney?
When I was a kid, I always wanted to go to Disney, and my parents were not Disney people. I put that in quotation marks. They actually said those words to me. My mother was like, "I'm not a Mickey Mouse person," and all that sort of thing. So I never actually had the opportunity to go until I was an adult. And when I did go, I was so absolutely blown away by how wonderful I thought everything was that I literally was crying when I checked out of the resort I was staying at. I stayed at the Contemporary, my very first trip, and as I checked out, I had just tears coming down my face. And that day I joined the Disney Vacation Club. And so I've been many times since then. And now, even though I live here, I still go visit and use my DVC points and have a travel agency that I still contact when I like to do my Disney trips. So absolutely still total Disney dreamer, because when I got there the first time, I had always dreamed of being there. And it was like every single moment that I was there was like something I had never had. I've never gone on a lot of family vacations as a kid. I've never had, the Disney family, the siblings, the fun experiences that so many other people see. So now I get to see other families doing that, and just being a small part of that is so fun for me. And I'm still a kid at heart too. So it's like, I went to see Peter Pan one time and he was like, "Will you be my mommy?" And I said, "Well, no, because I'm never going to grow up either." So then we decided we were just going to be friends forever. So, it's one of those things. I'll just never grow up, and I'll always enjoy it.
So how was your dream of getting in better shape received by your family?
My mom was not real happy about it because she was actually a head chef in Germany when she met my dad. So she really enjoyed cooking, and she really wanted me to come over and eat more. And she was not happy with my, food choices and dietary changes and the fact that I was working out so much, and they had a kind of a tough time with it. And in fact, my parents didn't even go to see my show. So it was kind of difficult to do all that, but it was something that I wanted, and I needed to do it for my own health and for my own happiness. And they're proud of me to this day. And, they bought me a necklace and they told me they were proud of me, but it was just the fact that I could tell that they still wanted me to be the old me.
What about moving to Disney? How was that received?
They are actually down here now. They never wanted to come down here, but now their health is not well, so I had to get them closer to me. So now my dad is thankful that he's down here. I will never forget the one time that I did get them to Disney World, and I do think that my dad kind of liked it. His favorite character is Goofy. So he's got a little fun side. He just, they try to hide it and be adult-like. But I think that, a small part of them is thankful that I've chased my dream. They supported me when I came down here, and they said that I couldn't live my life just by being where they were in North Carolina. And I did need to do what was in my heart to do. So that I think that they really kind of came around to support me, and I appreciate it.
So what steps did you take to get started? Could you go into more depth about how you got started with getting in shape? And then also go into the steps that you took to move from North Carolina to Disney World.
Well, for getting into shape, I knew that I needed some help in trying to figure out, what to eat, how to handle how much to eat in a day, what's the proper kinds of foods. And I learned actually that it's probably 90% the foods you eat and 10% the exercise. I mean, yes, you do need to move and do things, but the whole discipline of how much the portions are and the types of foods that you eat and the things like that really did mean a lot more than I thought it did. So I learned a lot about nutrition. I had a trainer at the gym that really taught me a lot. And believe it or not, at that time, I kind of learned a lot with Weight Watchers and, counting the points and that sort of thing, just to kind of figure out how to make proper food choices until I knew more about it. So that was one way of doing it. And then the trainer at the gym really, they were very blunt about the way they worded things. And I appreciate that, because I would do like an hour and a half of cardio and I would work my tail off. And they came over to me one day and said, I see you in here working so hard and you're not making physical changes. So, I feel like you want to put the work into it, you just don't know how. And they looked at me and they said, well, what do you want to look like? And they said, point someone in this gym that you would like to look like. So I'm sitting there on the bike, I'm like, well, I want to look like that. And they said, well, what is she doing? Is she over here, pedaling on the bike? Or, she was actually over lifting weights and toning. And so they said, well, then why aren't you over there doing that? From that point on, they started to teach me how to do the exercises properly to tone. And so between the dietary changes I was making and the toning and the new exercises that I was learning, that really helped me start to make the physical changes. And moving down here was just an amazingly fast process. I mean, 2 weeks after I even thought about it, I was packing up the car, because I had the email that, my job was open, and I did some interviews, and then they said that you have the job, but we really need you to start right away. I had a friend and coworker, and then my other person was a manager that worked at that station that actually hired me in North Carolina at the TV station I worked for. So between the two of them, one hired me, one had worked with me before also, and they were saying, I've got a guest room for you to stay in. All you have to do is just get down here. So I just loaded up the car. I was like Beverly Hillbillies. You could almost not see through, see the rear view mirror. But I was packing, gym clothes, work clothes, recreation clothes, because I knew I was going to be trying to get to Disney World on the weekends, and, just so much going on. And, I hadn't even been married a year yet. And my husband was back at home packing up the townhouse and figuring out what was he going to do, because he didn't have any job plans down here. I mean, this was just totally out of the blue. So we really had a lot of changes to make, but I thank him, but I totally got out of the whole packing and moving sequence. He had to do all that stuff. I was just down here enjoying life. So he gets a lot of credit for all that he did on that one, because I came down here and just enjoyed every moment of the transition.
I don't think you mentioned earlier, what do you do in the television industry?
Well, I actually started out in production, in audio and camera and all that sort of thing. And I decided at that point that I wanted a more normal schedule, because I was either coming to work at like 3:30 in the morning, or I was there until midnight, basically. So, and I was working every holiday, because on Christmas Day, you're sitting at home and, those news people are on there. So because I wanted a more normal life, I got into the sales department and I worked as an administrative assistant in sales. So basically, my job at that point was to create the presentations that the salespeople would take out and sell commercials. So that I loved. When that position was eliminated, then I ended up in a mall management office, which is where I work again now. So after 15 years of working in television, the station in Orlando was a little bit different than I was used to in North Carolina. Basically what we call a triopoly. So it was kind of three stations in one. So there was three different stations of people selling commercials, three stations of program logs with all of the television programs on them, three stations of all the commercials, and you have to input all the commercials with the appropriate dollar signs that people paid and exactly what show they put them in and all the details to the TV world. And because there were three stations in one and so many people were stressed out, it was a completely different world. And I decided that with the stress level that I had, I needed to find a more happy place. So I left the TV world after 15 years and work in the mall management office again. And every day I'm so thankful because it's fun. I mean, every day has its challenges. There are still things that happen with, tenant issues or customer issues or, Christmas time and, that busy times. And, there are all sorts of things that happen. But I'm thankful every day because I truly love what I do now. And to me, it's a much happier environment. It's a great team. And we really work together every day to just do the best we can do. And the fact that the stress level is so much lower, it really helps out. It's not like you've got three stations that every commercial has to be there and it's just a whole different level of all that has to go on, So there's still a lot of work, but it's just a much happier place to be.
You definitely got to enjoy what you do since you got to do it for 40 years or so, give or take.
Absolutely.
Give or take a decade.
And it's like a friend of mine says, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So, I had to get myself into a place where I wasn't so worried and stressed out. So this is actually, I did love working in television, but, this is what I'm doing right now is like a dream come true.
So what roadblocks did you hit first with getting in shape and then also with moving?
There are always things coming at you, just the whole life in general. You've got stuff that happens, but every single thing that happens helps you down the road that you're supposed to go. And I truly believe that, sometimes we make our choices and, they might be the long road, but you're going to learn a lesson that you were actually meant to learn. And sometimes it'll make you tougher. Sometimes it'll make you stronger. Whatever the reason for you going down that road, I just really, truly believe that everything has a reason and that everything makes you better. So don't ever let anything come in your way. I mean, between job losses or, having to move, and times when you really didn't plan to have to move or, just different life things that are thrown at you. And it always makes you a better person and it helps you to figure out where you're meant to be, what you're meant to be doing, what makes you happy, how you get there. And if you're not there right now, if you don't like what's going on in your life, change it. And if you can't change it for whatever reason, change the way you look at it. Because if you can change the way you look at it and become a happier person, that will help you get through every day to get where you want to be.
So my next question is how you overcame those things, but you kind of already hit that one out of the park. So thank you. So has there been any parts of your dream that haven't quite worked out?
I don't think so, because the way I look at things is things are never over. So, if there was something that maybe hasn't worked out yet, I can't think of anything, but, if there was something, it's not over yet. You're still on the road to get there. So you just always got it. As long as you just keep making steps forward. And when those things get in your way to slow you down, always remember that the roadblocks are not setting you back to the beginning. They might take you back a step or two, but you're not going to start over. So as long as you don't get frustrated and stop, you're going to keep going in the right direction. Even if you have to go around that little block to get there, you can still, start from where you are and not the beginning anymore. You've already passed that point.
So if you were stranded on a deserted island with your family, what 3 things would you want to have with you?
Let's see. I would probably need the internet. I don't think I could do anything without that anymore. As long as I had my husband there with me, we could get through anything together. I'd probably have my little Disney dreams and, be trying to find a way to get a boat to get me to Disney World for vacation. But I'd be like flagging down the Disney cruise ships to get me back home. Honestly, most of my stuff is just, the mental, the motivation, the determination, so that no matter what is around us, we could get there. You never know what kind of situations you're in or where you are or what you're going through or what's going to come at you. But, as long as you've got what's going on inside your head, you've got the faith and the belief and the determination and the positive attitude to get through anything, then it doesn't matter what tools you have, they're going to work.
So what do your dreams for the future look like?
I would love to remain in this area. This is the place I've always dreamed of being, so I hope to stay here forever. I do honestly kind of hope that somehow my life might take on a little bit more Disney. I have so many friends that do, podcasts and blogs, and I have a blog that I actually don't have much time for between working and, working out and running, and I volunteer with Run Disney events, and I just recently volunteered with Special Olympics Florida. So with all of the different, like I said, the ADD, attention deficit Disney disorder, anything related to Disney. The Special Olympics was held at ESPN, Wide World of Sports. So by being affiliated with Disney sports enthusiasts, I was able to volunteer and really see the faces of those kids. And I just hope to continue to, if I'm not running, I'd like to be volunteering. I'd like to be doing more with all of my friends that do the, Disney dreaming things that just like you do. I love your show and I've really enjoyed it so far. But, so many people have so many great things that they're doing. And I would love to somehow find a way to be more a part of all of the Disney fun that everybody's having.
Well, thank you for the compliments. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. I've really enjoyed it. And, I just love to see all the things going on and all the positivity. And, you're helping a lot of people to get where they want to go. And that's another thing that I want to do as well. It's just like Disney says that, anything can happen as long as you have the courage to dream it. If you can dream it, you can do it. All of Walt's wonderful quotes that, we look at, we read every day, and we believe it ourselves so that we can do something great. And that's really what it's all about, is trying to help other people to actually think about, getting off the couch and figuring out how to do something themselves. Or, if they can't figure out how to do it themselves, they can listen or read about how somebody else did what they want to do. And, just by knowing that someone else did it might help someone to think maybe I can too.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the mantra of the show, and definitely try really hard to motivate other people to do what it is that they love to do. So do you have any last thoughts to share with the audience?
No, I think I've shared so much and gone in about every different direction that their head is probably spinning as much as mine is. But, I just enjoy everything. I'm one of those people that, if you watch the movie Up, you see Squirrel, the little dog is like, squirrel, and you focus on that until the next thing comes across, and then I'll focus on that. So, it's very much like that. And I put myself into something with everything that I can at the moment until the next thing comes along, and then I jump into that. And so I just hope to continue to do that. And I hope to somehow inspire some other people to do the same thing.
Well, I hope so too. Would you like to plug any websites, Twitters, Facebook pages?
I am on Facebook and Twitter as Beatrice Feeney. My blog that I would love to have more time for. I was doing one every month or so or a week or so for as often as I can. But my blog is at Disney Girl in Orlando. So I do enjoy showing some of the things that I have the opportunity to see and enjoy at Disney, or, I put a lot of pictures in my blog and different events that Disney has that, like the 24-hour day or Run Disney volunteering or, different things like that, so if I get a chance to participate in something, I do enjoy writing about it and showing some pictures of how that all goes about. So those are my ways.
Well, I'll make sure to have them in the show notes. Thank you for coming on the show, Beatrice. I really appreciate it. Your story is very inspiring, and I hope that it touches a lot of people.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. And I really enjoyed your show. So you keep up the good work too. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd love to have you on again in like 6 months to a year, and we can talk again and follow up with how you've been and what you've been up to.
Oh, that sounds great. We'll see what I get into between now and then.
Well, take care.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter @Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co.